Hello ladies and gentlemen, Lorenzo here with a video. I'm not sure I'm going to title it, but let's call it Help Out a Viewer. I got an email from Roel saying that he needed some help with a rocket that well, he couldn't figure out why it was not loading. Oh, look at that. This is his ship. The Mega Kethane Miner contains locked or invalid parts. Going to grab the mods he needs for that and come back. And there we are, back with the requisite mods installed. The Mega Kethane Miner. Let's go and have a look at it. I've not had a look at it before, so if I fall off my chair in awe, disgust, or hilarity, that is something that can happen. Well, from here on I can clearly say this rocket is orange. So let's zoom out and have a proper look at it. It has a few stages. So what I'm seeing is a center core with 6 outer cores with some boosters attached, and they are attached using some girders and then decouplers, and then 2 neatly attached solid boosters. The design is cleaner than most of my own rockets, but then again it does use a lot of girders, which I don't really do. Then we go up to the center stack, and then we get what I think is an asparagus stage. No, it's a regular. It's not a stage at all. This is the whole center bit, and this is going to land, and then this. Where are the miners? Oh, here are these are landing legs. I think there are miners here somewhere, or maybe this is supposed to land upside down. I don't really grasp this bit yet. Perhaps this is intended to dock to something. This is a lander though, and Roel asked me about some miners that were on the craft. This is a kethane tank. No, this is the heavy drilling unit. No worries. I was looking for the side attaching miners. This is the drill, right? I get it now. So let's have a look at what goes horribly wrong if and when we do decide to launch it. As he described, the thing falls apart on the launch pad, and he doesn't know why, and from the VAB I can't really tell why that would happen. A lot of struts are in place, and sometimes it's bad to overuse the struts because the forces get distributed in such a way that, well, the rocket can't really cope with it. Basically the struts, they're not like actual struts, they can't break. They are more like physics warps that just magically transfer the strain from one point to the other, so that can incur some undesirable things. It is twilight here now, not nice and day lit. That is a bit of a pity, but so far everything looks fine to me, so I'm going to try and launch this and see what happens. So the clamps, they do rise with the ship. Release that, please. I think they were in this stage as well, but then again, maybe I was mistaken. Release the clamp. So far, everything looks fine. We're lifting up at this. Just give a quick sidebar to my own series, the KSB to Mars one. I really do want these mainsails because boy, they sure know how to give a rocket some thrust to weight ratio. We're running into some aerodynamic stability problems here, which can be imagined with such a strong thrust to weight ratio lifting through the lower atmosphere. So the flight path now is not wonderful. In fact, I'm going to revert to the launch pad and see if we can't improve that a little bit by throttling back the mainsails and then limiting the breakneck speed of the ascent. I'm not sure if you're using Ferrum Aerospace rule. What the hell is this? Okay, one thing you never should do is click revert to launch with this. That is a clear lesson. What's going to happen when I click launch on this? I wonder. I think it's just a graphics glitch because the rocket still does appear to be a rocket. Wow, this is wonderful. I've never seen this before. And not all of the clamps are in fact in the first stage, so that's something you should do as well, because then the clamps don't come along to it. I'm not sure you're using Farum Aerospace. I don't think I saw it on the list of mods you have. But, well, you should, because it's nice. And if you do, you should add some fairings to your rocket, because that will make it a hell of a lot more stable. Because a haphazard rocket like this. Well, of course, the big tank, the big drill, that's not a good rocket either, but that's not what you designed, so I'm not ragging on you for that. No, you shouldn't. Fuck this. I'm going to try and revert once more. You should add a fairing, and I might do it for you, because otherwise I can't fly your rocket. But so far what you're describing, that it shakes apart on the launch pad, that's not happening for me. And now that I'm saying this, I'm not sure that you said it was happening on the launch pad. But for that I would have to test fly your rocket a bit more and see what happens. So what I'm going to do now is, well, I'm going to try and launch it again, and hope that the graphic glitch doesn't happen again, because that's a bit odd. And then just launch it straight up and slowly, so that the Farum Aerospace aerodynamics doesn't make it spin out of control. And we'll see how the rocket performs. Again, I have a feeling you're not using Farum Aerospace, because there's no fairings on your rocket, and this is an aerodynamic nightmare. Then again, you are using the aerodynamic nose cones on the boosters, so I'm not quite sure what that's about. We see the whole vessel has about 6 kilometers per second of delta V. That's not enough for orbit here in the real solar system, but of course in Kerbin that is plenty. I'm just going to do it like this, where I proceed up very, very slowly, and hopefully that will keep the rocket stable. Otherwise I'm going to throw a fairing base here and just cover this whole bit in fairings. That should help a bit. So far going straight up is going well, and of course if the problem was that it disintegrated in flight, and if going straight up is going well, then do that and go a little bit slower. Of course it's not the most efficient ascent profile, but if it's a difference between doing it with the rocket intact or, well, not doing it at all, then the solution becomes clear. You either have to redesign the rocket or accept the somewhat slower, more inefficient ascent profile. So I'm going to drink my coffee and see how this turns out, really. Sorry about that. It's never pretty when the narrator comes into the microphone. Oh, we are turning over a little bit. I want to keep this pointing straight up, because otherwise the drag is going to be horrible. Now it is going to be horrible. And yeah, the boosters, they did a number on the mainsails. So I'm going to go back to the vehicle assembly building, add some fairings. Hopefully that will help. Because this thing, the problem I'm identifying with it first and foremost is that it is incredibly unstable. Not in construction, but in flight with airflow around it. There's basically, well, you can see it easily. There's girders sticking out everywhere. I'm going to remove these as well, because I don't think they're necessary. Going to remove that, and I'm going to stick a fairing base under there. Let's see, the fairing base at 2.5. I put it in sandbox mode, obviously, for this, and it has a lot more parts than I'm used to. So excuse me if I do look for something for a second. Look. And now I need to attach this to that, obviously, and then we have a rocket again. Now something that I like to do. Oh, oops. That's a landing lag that's gone. I'm going to Control Z that. I have the landing lag back. What I like to do is strut the payload to the rocket as well, because here the attachment point is fairly well. The landing lag that vanished, so I'm just going to rebuild that manually. Stick that on there. This attachment joint is pretty thin, so when this swivels and there's control authority on this, that's going to bend and flex and be horrible. So what I like to do is run some struts from the payload to the... Do they go this far? No, they don't. To the rocket, so like So, of course, if they're going inward, you have to place them actually on the inside, otherwise it doesn't work. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing solution, but the fairings, they cover it up pretty well, and now it looks like a rocket. I'm not sure what's going on with these adapters here. They're not strictly necessary on top of the tanks, and I don't think they add any aerodynamic benefit. Maybe it's just for aesthetics, but well, you could get rid of them if you're going to build even bigger rockets. Then the part count, you will like not having a high part count, so you can ditch these kind of things. Anyway, let's try and launch this again, see if we can fly it out of the atmosphere. I have about 15 minutes before I have to leave to work, so hopefully I can make something work in that amount of time. One thing I'm thinking, if you have joint problems, and you're not 80 years old and it's not rheumatoid arthritis, if you have joint problems, try the Kerbal Joint Reinforcement mod. I have that installed, and perhaps that's just what's making the rocket work for me and not for you. That could be it. And generally for real solar system it is very much recommended, and also for large rockets. Probably that's why it's recommended for real solar system, because the larger rockets are pretty much mandatory there. So I would say if you have problems with the rockets, well, just shaking themselves apart, give the Kerbal Joint Reinforcement by fairing a shot. It doesn't noticeably alter gameplay, except that your rockets are a little bit more rigid, which is, I think, completely desirable. What it also does is that upon atmosphere changes and rocket loading, it holds up the game a little bit, so you get a little bit of a frame hiccup, where it says that KJR, Kerbal Joint Reinforcement, is stabilizing the physics joints, or stabilizing the physics load. No idea what exactly it's doing, but I think it's holding off on loading the actual physics until the whole vessel is in place, so that's not unreasonably loaded when the game is loaded when it's first started. So you might notice a hiccup here and there, but then again, it's pretty good if your Kerbals, your rockets will fare a lot better. So I would say give that a shot, and otherwise I can't really find anything wrong with the rocket, apart from that these boosters separations is a very hairy affair. And I put the fairing release in the second stage. That may not have been too smart, because we're not out of the atmosphere yet, and now we just have the same aerodynamic problems we had before. So I'm going to throttle back and take this very slowly. We're approaching the Mach 1 barrier, and I think maybe when we're through that, things will be better, or perhaps worse. So no, we need those fairings attached. So right, I'm going to try this one more time, while keeping the fairings on for the whole flight, basically, because we've got 6 kilometers per second of delta V. We are going to make it out of the atmosphere if we shoot straight up, but not anywhere else really, so we just need it. Right, so this fairing separation goes all the way to the top. Well, not all the way to the top, it goes here. And we can launch that, and I think now it's going to just shoot straight up like an arrow, and we can see if the whole staging progression works. And I think it will. So my top tips for this rocket are to remove the excess girders. You don't need them for launching. Remove the excess parts, not for any reason pertaining to this rocket, but well, if you're going to go larger, higher part counts will quickly make your computer crush to a halt. And as to what causes the problems you have, I'm going to guess either it's the stock game joint reinforcing, well, the lack of reinforcing, and of course you could say, well, then the rocket is not fixed, but there's a plugin, an add-on, a mod that fairly easily takes away those problems. So do that instead of spending hours and hours redesigning your rockets to work with the wobbly joints, especially what the developers have announced. They are going to change that with the next version of Unity and the game. Or what could be happening, and for that I have to look into your computer, is that if that is fairly slow and it takes a long time loading, that the loading itself is putting the craft on the pad in an unbalanced way, where it applies stresses to certain parts first and not the others, and basically these are things that can happen with a low frame rate. Is that things occur that wouldn't quite happen otherwise. So if your computer is slow, and I have a feeling it might be because you commented on one or two of my videos that the audio and video is out of sync, which I don't agree with. I checked the videos and they're perfectly synced, at least on my end. And that's also something that can happen with a slow computer. So I have a feeling that your computer might be slow, and if that's the case, possibly Kerbal Joint Reinforcement could fix that as well by holding up the game until the rocket is loaded. And otherwise, if that's not going to fix it, then I'm afraid there's nothing to it than to just launch smaller rockets, where I'm coming back to my second tip, is to remove these kind of parts. Just throw them away. Your rocket will not be noticeably different, except that it will be smaller in part count, and that will make your processor happy, because for these parts the physics are just calculated. It says that the tank is being pushed up, this part is being pushed up, and that means that through the magic strut this part is being pushed up. So if you remove this part, you remove a bit of the calculation, and that sort of thing that grows exponentially with a rise in parts. So try to keep that kind of stuff down. I think we're looking good here. We're rising. I'm throttling back because these mainsails, they have the ability to just, I don't know, burn the top of the rocket straight off through the thicker part of the atmosphere. We're getting out of that, so I might be able to open up here. I really want those mainsails in my KSP to Mars game. I'm currently, I have unlocked every node leading up to it, and you'll see that in the coming episodes in the next few days. And now it's just a question of getting 500 science for these mainsails, and then my launch vehicles are going to be amazing, just like this one. I do have to keep an eye on the overheating though. And another thing I had some question marks with were these attachments, where you put first the girder and then a decoupler. Well, that works perfectly fine. It is again 2 parts. I'm not quite sure what's happening at 1 frame per second for a bit. Oh, I'm downloading Windows 8.1. That's probably at some milestone. Anyway, you can also go for the extended decouplers, and I think that will still work with a hexagonal 6-way symmetry with the big tanks. They just will be closer together, but I don't mind that. If you don't mind either, you can save another part there, or 6 parts actually. And well, those are kind of things that do tend to help. So we're coming up on this mainsail separation, and what I like to do, of course that adds parts again, is to add separatrons to the separation of these mainsails, and then you can put them a lot closer together and you don't end up with these leftover girders. Oh, it's overheating now, so I throttled back just in time. So now let's pitch over for posterity. There's no chance this is going to make orbit, but then again we can pretend we're doing something like that. That will make Jebediah happy, I think. So yeah, this so far I think this is a fairly boilerplate rocket with, well, an upper stage made out of a main. So this could have been a skipper engine for some slight improved efficiency, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Go, burning for the horizon, waiting for this tank to run out, and then I'm going to separate the fairings and, well, have a quick spin with the miner. It's not going to land anywhere, obviously, and I do have to get going in a little bit. So, in conclusion, I'm sorry, but I didn't found the problems you were describing in your comments in your email. It doesn't shake itself apart. It's either due to the Kerbal Joint Reinforcement that I have installed, and well, then you can just do the same, install that, and all your problems are over. Or it's something else on your end, and well, I'm not quite sure what that could be, apart from the computer being slow, it's for which there isn't really a fix, apart from possibly Kerbal Joint Reinforcement. Maybe some of the other viewers have their own ideas about this, and I'm sure they will be glad to share it with you in the comments, but so far this rocket does appear to be working properly, and I do understand the frustration and confusion you felt, because, well, it's fairly well put together. There's girders everywhere, there's struts, all the parts are there, the landing legs are heavy. It's funny, now that I play with real solar system, I'm looking at every ton twice or thrice, and I go like, oh my god, this is so heavy, you can never launch this. But of course, in the stock game, you don't have that problem. Ooh, this is a big honking drill. Yeah, that would be nice to deploy on a planet. That is a big honking drill. The thrust to weight ratio on this thing is minuscule. You're landing it on Minmus, maybe? Because even on the moon, that would be just above 1, I think. No, it has a 6 gravity, so that would be fine. It would be fine on the moon. It would be fine on Minus, obviously. Fine. Anyway, this is now a space alien repeller. If they come from behind, well, they're not going to be able to, so that's its purpose. Right, so I think your rocket is fine. You either need to upgrade your mods to include Kerbal Joint Reinforcement, which is not technically a rocket fix, but then again, it does fixes the rocket. Or there's something else going on that I can't see from this end, so maybe have a look at your computer and delete some spyware, some viruses, or get faster hardware. Then again, I don't have the fastest hardware, and it's working fine here. So this was me having a look at Roel's rocket, which appears against all odds fine. If you have a question or rocket you want me to look at or just play around with, or anything that I could make a video out of that you would enjoy seeing, don't hesitate to send it in. That's mail@donlorenzo.eu, or just throw it in the YouTube comments, and I'll be glad to see you around. So thanks for watching. This was Lorenzo. Goodbye.